My name is Daniel Bisson and I'm game director on Tomb Raider. One of the things that we wanted to do is that we wanted to build a new game with a Lara that was more accessible. Because one of the older Lara was Teflon type Lara. She was perfect. She had everything for her. She didn't have any flaw or vulnerability. And we wanted to modernize the character. We wanted to bring the character to where we are today, the age of where we are today, and that was super important for us. So what we basically did is that we had to do, because it's a new game, it's also a reboot, it's also an origin story, so we had to go back to the beginning and say, hey, let's make her with flaws and weaknesses and vulnerabilities. By doing that, we made it more accessible. So by thinking about that, it was important for us that we go back to the beginning and change some of the elements. So some of the core values she has, like curiosity, motivation, dedication, things like that, still there. So she's still the same. She's still from the same, roots of what she is. But we made her more real. It was that everything that Lara feels, we wanted the player to also feel it. So there's two ways of doing it. There's the filmmaking ways and there's the game way. And the filmmaking ways are using a lot of the emotions of empathy. So when you're seeing a main character having like pain or suffering something, you feel empathy for that. You empathize, but you don't see yourself as this character, but you empathize for that. You identify with it. In video games, you basically has a much more identification with the main character. You're like becoming this guy because you actually have actions. And one of the things that was important for us is that all these moments where she's vulnerable, we could have made them in cinematic, like a lot of games are doing right now. It's like all the emotions in cinematic and all the visceral emotions are interactions. And as you know, the more the interaction is complex, the more visceral and primal emotions surface, like fear versus control. I'm afraid to lose. I want to win. So these basic emotions come when you're challenged and the inputs are very complex. This is the emotions that come in. When you have like nostalgia, confusion, when you have intimidation, things like that, more human being complex emotions, the interaction needs to be simple. So moments of intimacy, moments where there's a lot of subtle emotions were made with simple interactions. Like for example, the first time she actually grabs the bow, it's a very intimate moment, and it's just a small, gentle movement of the stick. And Lara goes like this, and it creates a whole set of emotions. And with that, we're using the sound, the music, the whole thing to make this more real as possible, to reinforce that synchronization between the player and the character.
Roth, please come and get me.
Easy. We're regrouping at my location.
The thing that we did is that we actually, for the camera work, we got inspiration for Born Identity, Children of Man, for getting a more gritty type of real effects on the camera. That was important for us, looking at all these style. But for the character, I think we looked more about what real person could be reacting to the same type of pressure. For example, a lot of the team read a lot, and myself, we read a lot about survival experience. A lot of people went through extreme situations, and we read a lot of documentation about how they've been changed, how they were facing these type of experience, and we try to convey that in the game. So instead of like a lot of games are doing, like let's watch all these movies and inspire ourselves, all these characters and all this story, we went through something that was more real, something that was more visceral, and I think that's what resonates also in the game. If you play in a game, it feels real. It feels like more intimate than if we were inspiring ourselves from a movie, for example.
Sorry.
First time we did that scene, it was a total failure, to be honest. It was not a one shot, done, and yes! It was a failure, meaning that the enemy were actually very far from the player. And you had to aim, and it was, you missed, and boom. And there was no connection between Lara and the first kill. Felt very cold almost like almost too free. It was not meaningful. So one thing we did is that we started getting the guy closer and closer to Lara, and it really worked out. And we had some multiple version of that, but it really worked out when the character was inside the bubble and when he was constraining Lara. Because as a player, I talked about synchronization, player-character synchronization. It's super important. This is a very emotional scene. It's a very impactful scene, and it needs to be, like I was saying, the inputs needs to be as simple as possible. Otherwise, you're just losing the emotional aspect of it, and it comes about fear of failure instead of being intimidated and constrained. So one thing that we did that was important for us is that you have some freedom before. You can move, jump, you're basically like this, and you can do whatever when that scene happens, because there's a position of freedom. You're constrained, you're freed, and then constrained. It provides a much more powerful meaning. And when you actually did a scene, when Lara goes and defends herself and kills the guy, even during the playtest, we even heard someone in the playtest, someone was like, yes! Because it felt liberated. We're building tension, and then we release that tension, and it felt more real and also more connected between the player and the actual scene.
Mayday! This is Lara Croft of the Endurance. We are stranded on an island in the...
Without showing, we cannot communicate very well what changed Lara. This is a moment in her arc that will change her completely. She will never be able to go back. And that moment had to be graphically depicted. And this is important because we need to show what was that made her change there. And as you move forward, it's a little bit less graphic, but she still kills people because she's invaded. There's some people searching for her. They want to kill her, and she has to defend her. And again, she gets wounded. She gets back something, and she's like, I need to do something. And she goes out and then starts shooting back. And just after that first kill, she also have a pistol without any bullets, and she holds it like that. And she's like, I will not stop. The reason why is because these are the elements. By showing the blood, by showing the danger, by showing the gruesome, the cruelty that is on this island, it makes the player much more connected with the player, and not the player, with the character and the scene. The way you connect with Lara, these are the most difficult thing we had to do. The combat was also very difficult for us. Because, like I was saying in my presentation earlier, it's an organic environment. The island has an identity, it's a character, and having AI navigate in a very organic environment is very difficult. Things that people won't even realize when they're playing. They will feel like any other games. But the magic of that is really having an organic environment and feel that everything reacts accordingly as it is supposed to be to reinforce the fiction. We're all bringing the past experience to the new project. So meaning that the new game I will bring some Tomb Raider experience to it, for sure. There's a reason why they got me 2 years ago. It's because I worked on these projects. I have people on the team that worked on Red Dead Redemption, that worked on the hunting. So you can feel they brought their experience. So the hunting is very good because of some of the experience. Some people worked on Gears of War. You can feel that too. Some people worked on a lot of big games out there, and that is important because when Daryl, the head of studio, wanted to push this as a new game, he kept some of the core team from Tomb Raider that knows what Tomb Raider are. They've been forever on that license, and get some new blood so that we have something that feels different, but yet similar, the same thing. So I think, yes, I did bring some of my past experience like everyone else. And the good thing about that is that I didn't have to, redo the same failures that we did, we did in my past projects. We're skipping those failures, but we did some new failures, and the next project I will skip those.
Need to find a way out.
To be honest, we're working right now. I was talking to you before the interview, working hard on this project on PS3, 360 and PC. You can imagine 3 SKUs is very hard to control. So the Wii U for now, we don't have any plans. I don't have any plans I don't know of. So I cannot answer any of that. I don't know. So maybe we don't know. And we're very close to finish it, like week or two to finish it. So yeah, it's about polish and debugging, and right now we're debugging it. It's the end. It's an emotional journey. It's rare that you're gonna have that in video games right now, because if you're a fan of Tomb Raider, you'll see all the things that you were frustrated about, like combat or camera, has been fixed. They're much more better today. That's the second thing. And the third thing is it's very fun. So you should be playing because it's very fun.